I know we all did, and tens of millions of people did, watch the Jake Paul fight versus Mike Tyson. Now, my son was out with his friends watching the fight, and I had my daughter, and we watched. She wanted to watch the fight, so I said, let's watch the fight. And John's all head over heels for this lady fight that was in front of it. That was before it. Mm-hmm. John can't get enough. He's like, it's an all-time fight.
It was a great fight.
That's like saying, like, that was an all-time dove race. An all-time pigeon race.
It was very entertaining.
Was it on the billiards channel? Because it's essentially like watching billiards.
Yeah.
What's the opposite of a cockfight? Would that be a hen peck? Is that what was going on?
I don't know the answer to that.
All I know is that someone's going to be offended that I didn't care about that fight.
I guarantee it now.
That was look, the only way I was staying up for that fight was to take a nap, which I didn't get earlier in the day, so I slept through every preliminary bout. I took like a 2-hour couch nap, but I woke up for the last, I don't know, 2-3 rounds of that fighting. That was a fight.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, but it was two women fighting.
That was good. I don't care. It was great. They were landing
very
punches.
entertaining. They were standing right in front of each other. It was really good.
There's
blood everywhere, man.
The headbutting, though.
I don't know.
I know. Taylor headbutted it right over the eye. It was bad.
I think I just respect women too much. I don't want them hurting each other.
Well, maybe I don't choose to white knight for every woman I come across in my life like you, Fred.
Guilty as charged. All right, so John's head over heels for this women's fight, so he's all on the edge of his seat. But John, also being the resident sports expert, bet on Tyson.
So did I. On the money line.
I did.
I bet on Tyson to win by knockout.
To me, the action.
Realize these are fake fights.
Listen
correct?
to me.
I did.
Do you realize that the action is the juice? All I want is action.
I know. You bet with the heart. I hit the BetMGM app. There it was.
I get if you're like, well, first of all,
I only bet 500, so it wasn't fiscally irresponsible.
No,
I
much
have
more of a loser than I am.
I have a lot of thoughts on this. First of all, isn't it interesting? Again, I have a bunch of thoughts on this, so if you'll indulge me, but I want your opinion because I haven't talked about this with anyone else because I don't have friends. So, isn't it interesting that Jake Paul? Everyone was rooting for Tyson. Tyson's the villain. Tyson's a convicted rapist. You tell me what Jake Paul has done.
Nothing.
No. But like,
I can't tell. I don't know why he's
exactly right. So all Jake Paul is a hustler like every other kid on YouTube. He's 27. He's not even really a kid. He looks like every other person on YouTube, and he basically hit the lottery. If you went on YouTube now and just randomly clicked on stuff, Jake Paul videos until you got to the end of the internet, you will find. I watched a video. My daughter watched a video yesterday of these guys that look like Jake Paul in Mexico that are getting killed by the cartels because they're saying the wrong thing in the videos. Like this is you could go to Finland and there's 100,000 Jake Pauls in Finland. I'm not even sure why we're supposed to hate him. Tyson is, again, a convicted rapist. But Jake Paul is the enemy. So anyway, and I wanted Tyson to win too. I liked how we bit his gloves. Second of all, Netflix is like, so the thing kept buffering.
Yes.
And Netflix came out with a statement saying something like, we were protecting it for the most amount of people. Some of you might have said it was buffering. Oh yeah. Just us in Boston were getting the buffering. Right. Like we're idiots. I mean, they're literally like, hey, morons, we got you to watch this stupid thing.
I know.
We got you to watch this dumb thing. Why don't you, you were the only ones who got it. Everyone else got to watch it. I mean, these guys are really something. But I also was interested in the complaint was the buffering because what did you miss? Now, here's my main point. All right.
Okay, hold on. Well, let me address that first. You pump this thing up. Yeah, everybody watch on Netflix. Everyone watch. Okay, we will all be sheep and we will all watch. We're all going to tune in and watch. You couldn't watch it. You're going to ask us to do something and then you don't deliver the most basic thing, which is the ability to watch it, even if it were nothing, even if they were standing around, even if there were a delay because there was a pipeline burst in the arena. you still have to be able to watch it. You couldn't watch it. So that is why people were so pissed off. You beg me to watch. I buy in for your marketing. I do all this stuff.
Yeah.
I go
It
out of my
worked.
way
Congratulations.
to stay up until frickin' midnight on a Friday night, which, by the way, we only said Saturday 15 times on Friday. I got one email correcting us. I finally found that this morning.
That's not good.
On Friday.
That's not good.
I don't think we said it that many times. But the fact is, you get people to watch, and then you can't technically watch it. That's what pissed me off. And I ended up watching it the way a lot of people ended up watching it, courtesy of another sociopath, Antonio Brown, who was live streaming it on his phone. He was at the event holding his phone up, taking a live stream video of the huge video board there in Dallas.
I didn't even know about that.
There were over 6.
That's how you watched it?
That's how I watched it.
I did not watch it
because
that
my
way.
my TV wouldn't catch up to the point, and like you, Fred, you and I have talked about this, and probably 90% of everyone listening right now can't stay off my phone, so I'm constantly refreshing Twitter while I'm watching a game or something like that, and I know what's happening before it happened. That drove me nuts. That's when I saw the thing pop up. The only way to watch the game right now is on CTESPN, which I guess is
That's his
Antonio
hashtag.
Brown's hashtag.
That's his
and
hashtag.
sure enough, 6 million plus people were watching his live stream
Wow.
of the event.
But now my question is this: so Netflix, congratulations, you did what you had to do. You better fix this all before the NFL. They got 2 Christmas Day games,
Yep.
and that's where you can't afford.
You'll have more viewers.
Well,
more viewers.
I don't know if you'll have more viewers, but you better. But there will be people will be real upset if this was just like a clown show. Like, how upset is anyone really going to be? You start screwing around with the NFL, people are going to be legit mad, like leaving your service mad. More harm than good. Bad. There is a point, as much as these companies like to take advantage of us, like streaming's no guarantee. I'll point you to Paramount Plus. They're losing hundreds of millions of dollars a quarter. And there's not that many of them, all told. Like, this isn't, just because you have a streaming service does not guarantee you money. They're not printing money. And they need live events, just like radio. Like advertisers want live content. Like these streaming services know they need to go to live content. It's the only way to really capture an audience at the same time. It's preferable to everyone. Everyone needs live content. That's why they're all doing it. It makes total sense. They need live events. That's why sports go for so much money, because they're guaranteed eyes all at the same time, experiencing something at the same time. But my thing is this, is that we all don't care about Jake Paul. Like, none of us know really anything about Jake Paul. He's just like a douchey 27-year-old. He grew up with the internet. He hit the lottery. I understand people are putting out videos of him doing like dumb dance routines when he was a teenager online. Yes, I get it. He's just a dumb kid. But how many people are going to turn around and watch another thing like this? Like, you watched it. It was terrible. There's obviously hang on. Jake Paul said after the fight he didn't want to hurt Tyson. There's obviously an agreement that they're not going to hurt each other, and they get. Why would you watch it again?
The only way I would watch something like this again is if I were convinced that the guys were actually going to fight. And I don't know how you can convince yourself.
But why
of
Jake
that.
Paul? Why is Jake Paul more compelling than an actual fight then? Because think about it now. Like, if Tyson, like, say he fights, I don't even know what effing boxer he'd fight next, but say he fights a better younger boxer.
No.
Some guy.
No.
So, but say the guy knocks Jake Paul out. Like, how, like, do you think that would be, like, super satisfying for you? Like, it doesn't. More than anything else, to me, if Jake Paul, like, I've seen it. I know who Mike Tyson is. I grew up, he was the biggest thing in sports for a year or two when I was growing up. Like, and it happened. He was biting his gloves, and the whole thing was weird, and they weren't hitting each other.
No.
So, okay.
Which, by the way, to your analysis, because I think they were both thinking the same thing. Like, Tyson obviously didn't want to get knocked out and get embarrassed, And I think Jake Paul probably thought, as old and as, a mismatch as this is physically, if Tyson catches me once, he could knock me out. So both guys just got in there and quote unquote fought. They didn't really fight.
There was
in a way that would stop that would prevent
Jake
being
Paul,
embarrassed.
Jake Paul said it. I mean, he fought like he was supposed to fight. He kept them away from him, and they didn't fight. But we're analyzing something that doesn't need to be analyzed. Like how they fought, it doesn't matter. They fought not to hurt each other, and so fine, great. Mike Tyson made a lot of money, and people are like, "This hurts his legacy." He's a convicted rapist. And the end of his career was horrible. Like, his legacy has long been destroyed.
Well, his legacy is now something else. It's that of being like, Mike Tyson, the brand.
Yeah,
it's moved on from boxing.
Right. But, I mean, it's not like his career as a boxer ended with a huge flourish.
No.
I mean, he faded out horribly.
Yeah.
Like, he took a bunch and lost to a bunch of tomato cans, and he stunk at the end. And this is 20 years later.
Now, here's something worthy of analysis. Was that the most disappointing television event you've ever witnessed?
It was so boring that I'll tell you what my experience was. I never cared.
Because
I never cared during it. I realized how much I didn't care as soon as it started. I was like, I don't care who wins. I don't care about Mike Tyson. And I really realized I don't care at all about Jake Paul. And if you have teenage kids, I don't even know how you can think Jake Paul's that much of a dick because they all have the same haircut.
Well, they all have the same haircut, but I didn't hate him until he rode in the lowrider with his doofus brother, and they kept talking about
the flames on the side of the
$1
car
million
going 2
he
miles
spent.
an hour.
The most expensive boxing trunks ever. It's like, I do hate this guy.
Yeah,
I don't even know why.
I'm with you.
All right. Did you hate Ravishing Rick Rude in the $1 Million Man? This kid's a wrestler.
I know.
Do you hate? Boy, you guys were
looking
rubes.
back on it. That's what pisses me off because I should have known better and didn't.
Like, you understand the whole thing is a show.
Yeah.
That he knew what he was doing with the expensive trunks.
You know what? You were saying the two fighters were fighting not to hurt each other. I think it's worse than that. I think Jake Paul certainly took that attitude, but I remember Tyson in the first couple of rounds actually landed what he thought was a good shot. He punched him in the throat. If you take a look on replay, you see it was an actual shot. And Paul looked at him and went, "That's it. That's what you have for me tonight."
John,
and that was the end.
I think
you're
trying to
Tyson,
get in Tyson's head.
No. I think Tyson for the first 2 rounds actually tried and then realized he had nothing.
Well, he had
at
no
58.
lungs and no legs.
This guy's.
That's what I think.
This guy's got a really good point. Andrew, go ahead.
Hey, if you guys are going to talk about the worst televised event, do you guys remember when the man was supposed to be eaten by that anaconda?
Yes, and did you listen to the show back then? This show?
I did.
Yes, and you recall my abject just fury at that whole event. This guy said he was going to get eaten by an anaconda. Do you remember this?
I do.
And he had the suit that was...
And he had a suit that you can't penetrate.
Yes.
And he tapped out anyway.
And he went feet first, which is, I mean, oh my God, Andrew.
I think we were on the air together at that time.
Oh, no, we were.
I think it was this show, yes.
So this guy goes, I'm going to get eaten by an anaconda. And it's this whole thing. And he's going to get eaten by an anaconda. And he's doing press. And there's this whole lead up that he's going to get eaten by an anaconda. And then they show him, and he's got an anti-eaten by an anaconda suit on.
Yes.
And then he let the thing eat his feet. Big deal. I would have done it. I would do that. If you put a bunch of crap on me that was impenetrable and then let an anaconda play around with my feet, I'd absolutely do that.
I
had 7,000 guys standing around to chop it into pieces the minute it got out of hand.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous.
There have been a lot of events. Like remember during Shark Week where Michael Phelps was going to swim with the sharks.
So
man
didn't even
versus
swim at
beast?
the same time.
No, I know. They're completely different areas. There was no shark anywhere near.
Well, let's explore that very quickly. So if you don't know what John's talking about, is Michael Phelps was going to race a shark. Interesting, right? So you figured there'd be a shark on one side.
Yes.
Even in a glass. They would glass in a lane of the pool.
Yeah.
And they would have the shark, and they would open up a fence, like a starter's gate, and the shark would swim out, and Phelps would start. They had a shark in like another part of the world.
Yes.
And then Phelps swim, and it was just who was faster.
But it wasn't even that. Phelps had like this modification fin on the back of his feet.
But
or
who
whatever the case
cares
may be.
who's faster than a shark or Michael Phelps? Unless
no
they're
danger.
swimming next to each other.
There was no danger at all.
No, and it doesn't even make sense.
I don't
So,
understood that.
how about this? 8:40, because I asked this question over the weekend on Twitter for other purposes, so I'd have something to talk about there
On the satellite.
on the satellite thing.
Yeah.
Some really good answers came in, and some of them are going to infuriate you
Oh, good.
when you are reminded.
You
of
better
them.
give me an hour then. But anyway, so
How about this? So you want to do more at 8:40?
yeah, sure,
Okay.
yeah, that's a good idea because I know we have to break because we have Mike Reese, but just again, we can talk about this again tomorrow because I'm just interested like why you would watch it again, and it's not one of those things like I'm better than this because I watched it. And it's not like I felt like I wasted time or anything like that. It was on a Friday night when I was with my daughter, and we would have been watching something anyway. It's just that when it started, I realized I don't care. I just don't care, and I'm certainly not going to care. There's no one else he could fight that I would care. Now he's fought Tyson.
Yeah.
I don't care about anyone in the MMA. I don't care about any fake wrestlers. I don't care about any other boxers.
If
I
he's
don't
dumb
care.
enough to fight like a ranked heavyweight.
But I don't care about him getting beat up. It doesn't matter to me. I'd rather see, quite frankly, if you put me in front of a TV, I'd rather see two heavyweights that can fight.
Yeah.
I don't care if Jake Paul gets hurt. It doesn't matter to me. It really doesn't. I don't hate him. I don't, and I hate everybody. I don't hate Jake Paul. There's nothing about him that bothers me. He's rich. He's done it. I don't care. If every douchebag that was rich, there's far worse douchebags than him on the internet. They're all over the place. It's all my kids watch. So I don't want to waste any more time. So it was people were disappointed, and you did a thing for your Sirius XM situation where you asked people the most disappointing television events of all time.
Right, because that was very disappointing Saturday morning. I'm sure a lot of us were bleary-eyed after trying to watch that thing the night before, which was riddled with technical errors and people trying to watch on phones or whatever else you could do. But yeah, the actual event itself was also disappointing. So I asked, all right, what's the most disappointing TV event of all time? We already mentioned one, which was probably the winner. If I were to go through and tally up all the replies, the opening of Al Capone's vault.
Yes, Geraldo Rivera.
Geraldo Rivera, big special, opening Al Capone's vault. It was, just tons of historical, pre-produced things leading up to it, and they finally broke through, and I believe they found a couple of empty bottles and some trash. There was practically nothing inside the vault.
But if you want to know how big a rubes everyone was back then, just a bunch of rubes, say there was 1 million dead bodies in there. They knocked the thing down. I mean, they would have been decomposed. It would have just been a bunch of scattered bones. And it was live on TV. And even if there was a bunch of documents, what is he going to sit Indian style? Or I'm sorry, whatever you're supposed to say now. Sit on the ground?
Indigenous American style.
Thank you.
Crisscross applesauce.
All right, very good. Whatever you're supposed to say now. I honestly am ignorant
Good
to
for
it.
you for catching that immediately.
Yeah, I whatever, dude. I don't even know. Whatever you're supposed to say now.
Why don't you give me something and then take it back?
Oh, yeah, that's right. The Seinfeld.
That's right.
That's a great Seinfeld. You got the cigar store India. But say there was a bunch of documents. What is he supposed to sit on the ground and start reading them aloud from a file cabinet?
Geraldo was a lawyer at one point. I'm sure he could decipher them.
But I'm saying on live TV, there was no payoff. Nothing was going to pay off. But go ahead.
Another Tyson fight was brought up as among the most disappointing. The
Michael Spinks.
No, McNeely.
Oh, Peter McNeely. Oh, I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Okay.
Yeah,
that
I
was
enjoyed.
fantastic.
I was at Mark McDonald's
I
house.
really enjoyed that.
My friend had a sleepover for that one.
And again, the Holyfield fight, I remember watching that with my buddies in Albuquerque where he bit the ear. Okay, it ended quickly.
Yes.
But wow, that was spectacle.
No, it was terrible. That was it. That was
The
awful.
Spinks one was bad because he hit him in the stomach. Spinks fell over, and it was over 38
But,
seconds in.
Okay, I can address both things. The Spinks fight was great because it added to the lore of Mike Tyson. Spinks was a good fighter, and Tyson knocked him out.
Oh, he was the linear champion.
You wanted to see Tyson knock a guy out in the
Yes.
first round. Now, the Holyfield was a bad fight because you actually wanted to see them fight. And when he got into trouble, he tried to get out of it by biting his ear off. Like, it was really a cowardly thing to do. So that was upsetting to me.
But there was one that got brought up here, and I had forgotten about it. And it was at a time when we were desperate to watch some type of sports on TV. And we all wanted to see something. Oh, my God. Do you know what? Wallach, do you want to take a guess?
Well, you said that, and I remember we were crazy. The game of horse on ESPN with Mark Jones.
Sean Wallach nailed it.
Yeah.
Do you remember the COVID horse game?
I do, because
I didn't watch it.
Mark Jones was at his home in Tampa, Orlando, in Florida. He had like this random NBA
Who's
jersey.
Mark Jones?
He works for ESPN.
Okay.
You would not, if I pointed to him,
Yeah,
you'd
yeah,
go,
I just
But he had a
don't know who he
random
is.
NBA jersey like tacked to the wall with thumbtacks behind him. And then they went to a bunch of different places that were on Zoom. Like, for instance,
They were like
Trae Young-
FaceTiming themselves on their iPhones.
Trae Young was in his parents' home and in his old driveway that he grew up in, shooting on a basket. They were playing horse that way.
Can you imagine if they got those guys together outside and under the same basket, the amount of disease that would have been floating between all of them? We would have been cooked.
That's not the problem here, Fred.
Not only
That's
that-
a different subject entirely.
But if
Looking
you
back,
remember-
I mean, imagine 5 guys playing horse.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know.
outside, it would have really been a carrier.
Yes. Horse and the connections would break up randomly, and you would poor Zach
It would
Levine.
have been as dangerous as us being allowed to lift the flags out of the
The ground
holes
on
on,
the-
the golf course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
that's
golf
right.
course, because
Oh
we're
my
all
God,
touching
they're
the same
so
thing.
Stupid, all of us.
Really.
But
really
in
tough.
addition to the bad production quality and seeing these guys in their parents' home shooting in the driveway, nobody was making shots.
That's true.
They couldn't even hit the shots, so
Yeah.
they just gave and went on
They
forever.
were
and
probably
it
all
was-
drunk. I mean, it was COVID.
I hope they were.
They were probably all wasted. But it's funny that you guys were disappointed by that.
The best was after someone made a shot, they had to race right up to the camera because they raced right up to their phone because they couldn't see what the other person was doing.
No, because that would have killed everyone. I'll tell you, the only thing I remember being on TV from that is Tiger King. And if anything Tiger King comes up now, I immediately, I have this visceral Pavlovian reaction.
Because
to
it reminds you of early COVID.
Of horrible early COVID, where I admittedly lost my crap. I did not like COVID. And now I'm very angry about the whole situation.
Several finales got a lot of votes. The Seinfeld finale, most disappointing TV event of all time.
No.
It
makes
terrible.
sense.
I know what they're
watch
trying
it
to
again.
do, but it went okay. It's not funny.
Not particularly, no.
No, well, that's a problem for a show that built itself on being funny.
There was a no-win situation.
I don't know. Well,
They couldn't do anything heartwarming or tragic, so they were looking a little bit of a corner.
The other problem was that they leaned so hard into them being mean. Their personalities and characters kind of changed in that last episode.
Yes.
The whole setup of them standing there watching and laughing at the guy getting assaulted.
It was the anti-heartwarming season or series ender. They were really backed themselves into a corner where they couldn't win. Because nothing they couldn't have a gimmick. Nothing tragic could happen. Nothing good could happen. It had to be nothing. They really had to be nothing. Nothing. So what are you going to do? So and how do we bring everyone back? It was it wasn't funny. You're right. I could see why you didn't like it. I have a little bit of leniency for it because I know what they were trying to do.
And then, of course, The Sopranos fade to black, which now you go back and watch it now, or you watch the entire series and you're like, that's cool. That's a badass way to end a TV show like that. In the moment, though, that was disappointing.
Is the last episode of Lost in there anywhere?
Yes. The entire last season, my buddy Dave was texting me privately on this. He's like, the whole last season of Lost. Which, I'll take your word for it. I watched the first 2 episodes of that show and never watched it.
I got sucked into Lost, and
I'll never forget how angry you were that next morning.
I
man.
couldn't. Okay, so
Holy
science
piss.
fiction people, you're like, wow, they created this whole world. They're so smart. There's all these mysteries and everything. They're so smart. Look at how clever these guys are. They're so much smarter than me. You could have done it. Here's a bunch of crap that happens, and you're gonna wonder why. And
Just
Never mind.
Leave it hang there.
Like if you just said to me, like, write down a bunch of random crap and then we'll put it in a show and there will be no reason why, I could easily do it. So could you. It's like a Fellini film. It's just exists for nothing.
But I think you're right about one thing, Fred. Trying to put what happened on Friday night in the context of all these other horrible, disappointing television events, I don't think it's going to end up ranking because the whole Jake Paul aspect of it. Like I know I didn't like him, but I really didn't know why. And the fact is, like that half of it doesn't have enough juice to make it carry over and be one of the lasting big disappointments.
My thing is that if society is not completely falling apart, and I don't care about Jake Paul either way, like I really just don't care, and this is kind of my point, that should be his payday. That should be like his $30 million payday. Congratulations. Now it's time to, like, it's like Huckleberry Finn. Like, now it's time to leave the town. You sold your elixir. Everyone's drinking it and realizing it doesn't work. Now you can't go back to that town. Like the next Jake Paul thing, it's completely on you. Like, that existed. I watched it with my daughter. She knows who Jake Paul is. I watched it for the Tyson thing. We both found it to be incredibly boring. He had it, and that was it, and now it's over.
I do hope somebody multiple people at Netflix today get, if not fired, at least screamed at to the point of tears. Where I want their year ruined.
I'll tell you this. Well, they're going to be excited today. There's so many eyes on it. I'll guarantee you this. There's someone on some platform that's going to pay a lot of money for the next one and is going to end up losing their ass and getting fired because it's one of these dumb executives that just goes, duh, and throws like a bunch of money at something that was popular once and will never be popular again, a.k.a. the Kelsey Brothers podcast, which will be an abject failure because they are less famous today than they were yesterday, and that will continue to happen.